Saturday edition. Orange and blue today. Cecil, Lammey, Andrew Mason. How do the Broncos beat the Chiefs week 18 to make the playoffs, Mace? We often toss around must win in broadcasting circles, right? Yeah. There's no more games scheduled after this unless you win.
It's as must win as it gets, right?
The mustiest of must wins.
Yes. I mean, okay, there's the possibility that Cincinnati loses tonight as we have this show rolling Saturday morning. The Bengals lose tonight. The Dolphins lose to the New York Jets on Sunday, and then the Broncos are in regardless. But here's the thing. They'll know the Bengal result, but they will not know the Dolphin Jet result. That's why the Dolphins and Jets are playing not at 11 a.m. Mountain Time, 1 p.m. Eastern, but they're playing at the same time as the Broncos because the NFL didn't want a situation where the Broncos would be able to look up at kickoff and say, hey, we don't need to try in this game. Nope, they got to go for it here just because you don't know what Miami, even without Tua Tagovailoa, is going to do. So there we go.
Yeah.
It's probably do or die for the Broncos. Not definitely, but probably. But you don't want to roll the dice on probably. You got to go all out, take care of business against a Chiefs team that has decided we're not going to play a lot of our key players. Now, I mean, there's only so much that you can do with an NFL roster, but they've already said Patrick Mahomes isn't starting. They've already ruled out, Isaiah Pacheco and a bunch of guys on Friday that were listed as doubtful, but doubtful means they're likely not playing. And that list includes Trent McDuffie and Chris Jones and Travis Kelce, just to name a few names there. Nick Bolton's on that list too. You're not going to be getting the Chiefs at their best. You got to come in, take care of business, put the hammer down, and leave no doubt against a team that is not what it normally is.
You just went Denzel Washington on us here from Remember the Titans. Leave no doubt. Yes, leave no doubt. And for me, the doubt creeps in with Vance Joseph's side because you mentioned all the starters being down, but Samaje Perine, Carson Steele, Noah Gray, there's some offensive players that I'm like, they're probably going to mix in Hollywood Brown. I would assume that's a total guess, Mace, but he's coming back from his injuries. He's had a game warm-up. You probably give him another game warm-up. And Carson Wentz, man, he can sling it. We saw this very instant last year when he's playing with the Rams. He comes in and wins a Week 18 game as a backup. You don't want him to repeat history on Sunday.
DeAndre Hopkins presumably going to play in this game as well.
Sure.
Xavier Worthy presumably going to play in this game as well. And this is where you got to have to talk about Carson Wentz here because he's going to be the quarterback in this game. And I'd say he's got more riding on this individually than anyone else in this game. I mean, a lot of guys have, obviously the Broncos have the playoffs as a team riding on it. Carson Wentz individually in a very interesting spot here. He started a similar game for the Rams last year, played well. They won. He had a passer rating just a smidgen below 100.0 at 99.8. His ESPN QBR was 89.9 for that game last year that he played. He had a sensational game by that metric. He's going to be throwing to not Mecole Hardman. He's still on IR, but he's going to be throwing to Worthy and Hopkins and Hollywood Brown. If this thing goes askew, it's because the Broncos on the back end were torched again.
Yes.
Like they were last week. That if you're looking for where could this game go haywire, it's if the Broncos pass defense, which has been the worst in the league over the last 5 weeks, dating back to that game against the Browns when Jerry Jeudy went nuts. That's where you have the risk of something bad happening. Let's actually play Vance Joseph's comment here, talking about kind of Carson Wentz, His background, of course, he's been a starter in this league. He was on a league MVP pace back in 2017 before tearing his ACL. Obviously, things have gone askew for him in his career the last few years, but this is a quarterback who still has oodles of talent and can deliver the goods in a game like this.
I think watching Riley all year, I mean, he has competed opposite of Pat all year. And in this league, every team has 2 or 3 receivers. So Riley's been attacked all year, right? So, and he competes every down. And when something doesn't go his way, he bounces back the quickest. I mean, he's the toughest guy on our defense. Right? He's a great tackler. He competes. He's long. He's going to have a great career, right? That happens to all corners. That group last week was a special group. The quarterback threw him open a bunch of times, but he was there. He was competing. And look, he'll get better from it.
He'll get better from it. And that's the Vance Joseph on Riley Moss, right? We'll get the other one loaded up in about Vance Joseph with Carson Wentz, but VJ knows what's on the line. Yeah. VJ knows that, hey, you had an opportunity with Riley Moss back to perform better, and he'll bounce back. You mentioned it when VJ made that, because I was talking to Joe Lombardi, you were talking to Vance Joseph, and when we got together, you said he called him the toughest. And I think that's something to highlight here as well about like, hey, it's a guy that's not going to be put down by a bad game. Yeah,
they'll throw at him. They'll test him. Wouldn't surprise me if he gets a pick in this game. And, the Chiefs might go at you and that they might make their share of plays. But if you can get a takeaway or two, and Carson Wentz, and this is where, like, you look at an area that's been a weak spot for him over the last few years. And it's kind of, when you talk about the decline of Carson Wentz, you talk about a couple of things. First of all, away from the field, you kind of talk about somebody who hasn't always been the best fit in the locker rooms he's been in. But the other thing on Carson Wentz that you talk about, you go back to Philadelphia in 2020, the year when it was easier to run a passing game than any other in NFL history, because there were hardly any fans in the stands and often no fans at all, which is why you saw the highest league-wide passer rating in the history of the sport in 2020. In that year, Carson Wentz had 15 interceptions, which led the league.
It's craziness.
Yes. And a better season with Indianapolis, although faded down the stretch. But when he started for Washington, started 7 games in 2022, 11 touchdowns, 9 picks. The interception rate for Carson Wentz has reached a point in most of the time since 2020, which is why we're talking about him being somebody who's been a backup this year. And so this is something I think if you're Vance Joseph talking about this game, maybe you're viewing it a little bit like Jameis Winston, a little bit like Gardner Minshew. Okay, he's got an arm. He's going to make some plays. He's going to give you opportunities for takeaways. And the success equation in this game, similar to Vegas, similar to Cleveland, similar to Indianapolis with Anthony Richardson, the success equation involves takeaways. You get an interception or two, you probably win this game.
Put it away. Yep. Here's Vance Joseph on one Carson Wentz.
I think when you draft these quarterbacks, top 5, top 10, I mean, the talent's obviously there, right? For most young quarterbacks, it's system, it's support system, right? It's protection, right? And, sometimes guys come into the league and they're drafted top 10. It's probably the team's probably not very good, so that's common sense. But, when guys have a chance to sit back and watch and learn the game and get to a better system, with better teammates, and better coaching, they drive, and, you've seen Geno this year, Sam's doing that in Minnesota. So it's been the same history in this league for a long time. So the talent is there, but the coaching, the support system, the structure has to be there also for young quarterbacks.
Think of that. Better talent, better coaching. It's Andy Reid.
Yeah. It's also why you're talking about Bo Nix having a pretty good rookie season. He has the talent, but he was in the right system and he was with the right coach.
Fit.
Fit matters, environment matters. Why is Caleb Williams struggling? Because the Chicago Bears are a chaotic mess of an organization from the top down.
Yep.
They won't always be that way.
Good things, right? Have they found the fit with Drake May? Drake May's having a really good season, and Jaden Daniels, of course.
He's having a really good season despite having a sieve in front of him. We were having this discussion on Friday out at Broncos practice, or waiting to get in there. I theorized, okay, if you're New England and you have a chance to take Travis Hunter, do you do it because he's so talented? Well, maybe, but here's the problem. Your offensive line is a mess.
No time to throw.
The best thing the Patriots could do is if there's a trade down possibility that allows them to collect multiple picks, preferably in this year's draft, they should probably take it because they got to work on that line. But a lot of other things are in place for Drake May. And, oh, by the way, they're going to have a lot of money to spend in free agency. But again, fit matters. I was a little concerned about the fit in New England. I'm still concerned about things from a head coach level. I'm not concerned about things from like a schematic level, and from the type of coaching that he's getting from the assistants. He's come a long way this year. Yep. He's come a long way. Bo Nix has come a long way. Jaden Daniels, you and I pointed to as a perfect fit, working with Cliff Kingsbury and Dan Quinn in Washington. And we're seeing with Michael Penix Jr., 2 games, we've seen some flashes that running that Shanahan-McVay offense with Zach Robinson calling the plays, that Michael Penix Jr. is going to be an ideal fit there as well. Atlanta may not get it done this weekend, and certainly they need some help from New Orleans to upset Tampa Bay to pull that off. But boy, you've got every sense that the Falcons with Penix can do some special things here in the future.
Right. Just the same feel you have with the Denver Broncos. They can do something special with Bo Nix. And it's interesting on our game preview show, Mace, we start with defense, because offensively I do have concerns or questions or things I want to see. And maybe this is like a shopping list, right? And we're not going to assume they're in the postseason. But if you were to make the postseason, there's a few things on my grocery list I want to see. I want to see defensively that secondary play better. Offensively, I want to see you run the ball more consistently. Doesn't mean 100 yards, but I want to see that emphasis like you did against Cincinnati. You were running the ball well, kind of stopped. Yeah. But there's a grocery list, I think, that we have to look at offensively as well.
Stick with it. Don't be cute. Now, this is where if you can get out to a lead, maybe you get the chance for the running game to get in a bit more of a rhythm, and Sean Payton doesn't get kind of the itchy trigger fingers when he's making the calls, and kind of sticks with it. Like maybe he sticks to what's on his play sheet if he writes "run it" again. His intent
would you write on it.
Well, "run it" didn't work. Is the problem. I mean, if I could, I would like. I might do something, but I might put a little bit more oomph in the parlance of Vic Fangio into it. Like, for the love of God, run it.
I would write Bo leave.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like,
see, show your sticker.
Hang on.
Show your sticker off. Yep. I got my sticker back here. Yeah, there it is. See?
There it is. Yep.
That's exactly what I would do. Ted Lasso it up, man. Ted Lasso this thing up, and Bo leave, and it's working with Sutton, it's working with Mims, it was working with Jaleel. Go back to the guys that you can get those plays from when you need it.
Yeah. Jaleel, Devon Vele, Mr. Reliable when he's targeted. Devon Vele becoming that Tim Patrick type who's always going to move the chains for you. Throw to the open man. Like, this is another thing. Somebody's always open. Now, when you've got 15 seconds left in the fourth quarter and you're behind by 7, you got to go to the end zone with it and try Marvin Mims between 2 defenders. But most of the time, if you just take what's there, you're going to get what you need.
Yep. Take what's there, get what you need, continue on the script.
I froze there.
You did freeze up. But the show goes on, Mace. Freezing or no.
Yeah.
And the show
goes on.
Apologize
for the cup, by the way. So, sorry.
It was a good deal. You also have to look at this clinching at home. We cannot overlook that in the conversation about, like, if you were to tell fans, hey, in the season finale, you can beat Kansas City to go to the playoffs, and you're wearing the throwback uniforms, 100% of people would take that. Regardless of dropping the Chargers game and dropping the Bengals game, and you've had 9 wins since December 15th, regardless of all that, if you just said, hey, I'm going to fast forward you in time, it's going to be January 5th, and you can beat Kansas City to go to the playoffs, and you are wearing throwbacks. And Bo Nix is your guy. Think of all the answers we've gotten. Remember the check mark, the grocery list. But all I wanted on my grocery list this year was, I want to know if Bo Nix is a guy. Done. We knew that around the Saints game. Like, done. He's the guy.
You've learned enough to keep turning the page. I mean,
yep.
He's the guy for the moment. Basically he's the guy for the length of his contract. I think that's what we've learned here. The next question becomes, is he worthy of a long-term deal beyond this? But we don't have to answer that today. You don't have to answer that next year.
Nope.
You've learned enough to where you say, okay, we're going to build this around him and see where it goes. You and I talked a lot about how Sean Payton is basically staking his hopes of being a Hall of Fame coach on Bo Nix. To be a Hall of Fame coach, he's probably got to win a Super Bowl in Denver, or at least get to a Super Bowl. If Bo Nix doesn't work out, he probably doesn't get another shot. He's all in. He may not say it in the way that the late Jim Fossil would say it, but he put all his chips on the table with Bo. So far, he hasn't disappointed.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is, like, some of the moments that have given me the most optimism about Bo Nix long-term have happened in losses. The drive in Kansas City should have been the game winner if not for the blocked field goal.
Yep.
The work he had in Cincinnati. Bengals had momentum. Yeah. You're on the road. It was an incredibly hostile environment. The jungle lived up to its nickname last week. And he was a cool customer. Firing it downfield. Accurate downfield too. So it's been good. It's been good. But now I was saying this today. You want, or I was saying this on Friday, pardon me. The thing that you've gotten this year is you've learned about Bo. You've learned about a lot of players that have been kind of forced out there. I think hopefully one of the things that Sean Payton has learned going forward is that it's okay to trust the young players. You don't have to lean on veterans. Like, trust the young guys and let them get better and let them grow. You can be patient.
Right.
The other thing that I want them to get out of this now, since it's in their grasp, is get that exposure to the playoffs. I think if they win this game on Sunday, I don't think many people realistically expect them to go into Buffalo and win in the wild card round.
No.
I think that's probably a bridge too far. But can you have some positive moments? Can you get the exposure to that environment that lets you know, okay, this is the level I've got to step it up to? I mean, look, we had the show on Friday about Garrett, Bolles, and Courtland Sutton. They're in year 7. They haven't experienced that kind of football. And Bolles, he just signed a contract extension. So even though he's in his 30s, he's still somebody who's part of your future and can benefit from this. So it's the cherry on the sundae to get to the playoffs, and I think accelerate the development of this team by giving it a real exposure to what you've got to do in the postseason, of course. And that's if you lose. If you win, you're maturing faster than anybody expected. You know, it was interesting to see. I saw this on Friday, Cease, pointing out that the Bengals are if they don't allow that touchdown to J.K. Dobbins that beats them in Los Angeles in November, the Broncos are out, the Bengals are in when it comes to the playoffs. It's that close. It's that thin a margin.
Yep.
But for the Broncos, if Alex Forsythe isn't run over by the Chiefs on that side doing their homework and finding the weakness in the Broncos' place kick protection, if that doesn't happen and Will Lutz hits the game-winning field goal, we're talking about the Broncos maybe not going to Buffalo, maybe having a much more winnable potential first-round matchup, being in the mix to play Houston, perhaps, if things break a certain way. So you're close on all counts, right? You're close to being in a worse situation. You're close to being in a better situation. You're right there.
The way I've put it, Mace, is that there's no more parity in this league. There's a couple of elite teams, and there's playoff teams, and then there's a bunch of bad teams. The Broncos aren't a bad team. They're a playoff team. So make the playoffs.
Yeah.
And do it in front of the home crowd. Let's play Mike McGlinchey here, talking about clinching at Mile High and what that would do for this team.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, obviously, we would have loved to have not delayed this an extra 2 weeks, right? But it'll be awesome to do this in front of the home crowd. I said it, I think, a couple weeks ago, but Mile High has been on fire the second half of this year, and we're so appreciative of our fans and the job they're doing for us when we play at home. And I expect nothing less than that on Sunday, and I can't wait to give this city an opportunity to cheer for us in the postseason.
Yeah.
It means something, man.
Yeah. It would be such a moment for these fans.
In a year where the magic has returned.
Yeah. Getting to experience that. I mean, you'd like a higher seed, but if you get this done on Sunday and you have that memory of getting it done at home, man, how good is that going to feel? How amazing is that going to feel?
The dance is the dance. I want to show Bo Nix the stage, and I want to show him Josh Allen on the stage so Bo can watch Josh, win or lose, and say, that's what I have to be. Mm-hmm. I have to be Josh Allen. I have to be back on this stage. I want Bo Nix to be addicted to going to the playoffs.
He's already figuring out what it takes when you have to go punch for punch with an opposing quarterback. And yes, you're facing the opposing defense.
Sure.
So you're facing Cincinnati's defense. When you're facing Justin Herbert and the Chargers, you're facing LA's defense. But there's something about when that quarterback, that high-level quarterback, and certainly the AFC is flooded with them, Mahomes, Allen, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, just going down the list of these quarterbacks as I have to catch my breath a little bit and get it and take a sip there. You've got these challenges. You had it last week with Joe Burrow. The fact that he could go out there and match Joe Burrow. Burrow leads a touchdown to put the Bengals in front. Well, here comes Bo Nix with the clock ticking down, driving the Broncos downfield to a game-tying score. That he matched that. Like, he's already getting those lessons, right, of what it's going to take, what he's going to have to do if he wants to reach that level. It's not going to be easy. I mean, the Broncos being in the AFC, when it comes to quarterback play, they're in the high-rent district. They are. When you have Burrow and Jackson and Allen and Herbert and Mahomes. That's your reality. Do you complain about it or do you get better? You work on it because these are the mountains you're going to have to go through if you're going to be a championship team in the Sean Payton era.
Yep.
That's your challenge right there.
Let's get into this team photo conversation. Really long clip, very worthy of your time to listen to Sean Payton. But let's set this up and then knock this thing down as we talk on a Saturday. This goes beyond our game plan show, but I just think it's so important, really just based on what Payton says about this, Mace.
Yeah. He's basically saying this team is special. That's unique. That he's been around football a long time, and he mentions how many years in his football life going back to when he was playing Pee Wee. And how let's face it, the years kind of run together. I mean, even for covering this sport, I can tell you that, some seasons kind of blend together, but some teams are unique. Some locker rooms are unique. I think, Cecil, you and I have talked about how this is one of the better locker rooms we've been around.
Oh yeah. So
it really is. It's a really good group. And that's part of what Sean Payton's getting at when he talks about this. Let's play the clip.
Every year you take a team photo, you go in, and today they handed them out. And I've been places where you never knew where the team photo went. I asked PK, I said, Paul, my first year of playing, I was 8 years old. Tell me how many team photos I'm in. So he comes back. This is your 52nd, just part of a football team. And I would say my mom kept scrapbooks, but I know where about 5 are. And I told these guys today, make sure this is one we know where this photo is. It's just not, and it's been a tight-knit team. And so, we've hit adversity like every team during the stretch of the season. We've had success. We've had, and here it is. Let's make sure this is a photo that we look back on and we know where that's at.
Yeah.
Well, they've done some renovations, Mace, but it's got me thinking of the hallway at Broncos Park, powered by Common Spirit, where all the team photos are.
Yeah.
And I can go back and be like, I remember that guy. I remember that. And, just the fact, like, we can remember the Luther Ellis team photo, and now we cover his son.
Yeah.
Right?
Who I called Luther once. Not Joe. I knew it was going to happen.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. But it's like, that's from Sean Payton. And again, we're football nerds. We've been doing this a long time, but from Sean Payton to say that, it means quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Guys kind of take a look around. And here's the thing. I mean, obviously, this team in some ways is defined by where it's going in the future, but it's never the same. You might have bigger seasons, bigger moments to come, but it won't be the same group ever again. Like when this season ends and everyone's got their garbage bags and they're packing up their stuff for the off season, it's not like packing, you're throwing into a bag, right? That group is never together again.
It's one of the saddest days of the year. Last day, clean out lockers.
Last year was really sad because, like, between Josie, I think of Justin Simmons the night before in Vegas when he talked, like, Justin knew this was it.
Yeah.
Josie knew this was it. He probably wasn't coming back. And there are special bonds from this year's team. And yet you're going to look around and say, okay, there'll probably be a few who aren't back because you have expiring contracts and whatnot. Maybe not as much. The Broncos did a lot of their shopping in the season in terms of re-signing guys. When you re-sign Cooper, when you re-sign Miners, when you re-sign Surtain, that's a lot of your off season that's done right there. But, there'll be some guys who aren't back. There'll be guys who are back, but then they won't make the team next year. It's never the same because you have a new class of young bucks coming in. I mean, we talk about the tight end position. Well, I mean, you draft a tight end in round 1, great. Somebody's gone. It's never the exact same. It's part of the fragility of life, the fragility of the moment, and why you got to savor each moment as it comes, and why Sean's telling those guys, save this team picture. This is one of the special teams that you're going to be on. And I think it's interesting he's saying that before this game.
Mm-hmm.
And by saying that, it's not special just because of the wins and losses. It's special because of the group and what it's experienced together.
Mm-hmm. Special because of the journey.
Yeah. It's been a fun journey. And so that comment that he said, and a couple of minutes later, I followed up and I asked him when he knew this was one of those types of teams, that one of those 5. And the reason why we don't have the clip is because it's 3.5 minutes. He talked for a while. He went into,
storyteller mode.
I call it Storyteller Sean, and we get Storyteller Sean a lot on Fridays. His Friday press conference this week was 16 minutes long. So it happens. And he pointed to late September, going down to Tampa Bay, going to West Virginia, then going to play the New York Jets. That whole week, the rain, even like having to practice on the tennis court on that pickleball Friday. Court. Yeah, with pickleball tennis court when, it rained so much they couldn't practice outside and having to adapt. And then they had the buses, they had a bus ride. They had a long bus ride to the airport. They flew out of Roanoke, and, all of us who, whether it was on the team bus or those of us who were driving, like you remember that drive when we were driving down I-64 back into Virginia, and it was raining like mad. It's a curving mountain road, the kind that you see up here in Colorado, and it was a white knuckle drive.
We couldn't see past the hood.
Yeah. And yeah, here we are. I feel like even those of us who are kind of just, hanging on to the side of the bus on the journey have had a heck of a journey as well this year. It's been fun. And again, one of my very favorite locker rooms to cover, and whether they win or lose this game on Sunday does not change that. We had the Jarrett Williams Good Guy Award this week. It went to Jonathan Cooper. Could have gone to a bunch of guys.
Sure.
Could have gone to, you can go down the list. PJ Locke, Adam Troutman, Mike McGlinchey, Zach Allen. Nick Benito's a guy who's always been willing to talk. Pat Surtain, Riley Moss. I hate to, Audric Estime. Hate to leave guys out. Even A.T. Perry. The conversations we've had with him have been enjoyable. Like it's a team of Blake Watson's been cool. Like it's a team of just really good guys. It's been fun. It's been, the paychecks don't make us rich in this business, but the memories make us rich. This season, no matter what happens on Sunday, is going to have a hell of a lot of memories. I'm getting a little misty-eyed here.
Just cutting onions.
Get a little dusty in here, man. What happened? God.
I'll break us out, Mace. I'm your rodeo clown. Over here.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's hope the Broncos get this win, man. And we'll be doing a post-game show. Never know who might stop by. Let me just throw that out there in case of a victory. So
might be a long show is what you're saying.
Yeah, I might miss a little bit of that Vikings-Lions game because that's going to be an awesome game.
Best week 18 hasn't been around for a while. Best regular season ending matchup in the history of the sport.
Yeah, craziness. Number one in the conference. Craziness.
I mean, possibly the 2 best teams in the NFL. Mm-hmm. I say possibly because Kansas City and Buffalo and even Baltimore have a heck of a lot to say about that. We should probably have a longer conversation at some point when the offseason begins about how there are some exceptional teams this year, but man, there are some rancid ones. This league probably has more teams at the polls, good and bad, than any season I've been around.
Pete Rozelle doesn't like this.
No, this actually feels more like what baseball has become. Baseball, you have a cluster of teams that are winning like 98, 100, 102 games, and then you have a bunch of teams like, unfortunately, our Colorado Rockies who are losing 100 games every year.
What it feels like, Mason, we're the old heads, so we can say this, is it feels like 80s or 90s, where it's like there's just dominant teams, and there's some good teams, and there's crap teams.
Yeah.
So we'll put a pin in that one.
Where are the Broncos going to be?
They're a playoff team. They're one of the good, not great teams.
But they got some distance to go to join that level. I think actually that's one of the things that we can take from this season, no matter what, is there's some distance left to traverse here. Making the playoffs would be great, and it's a significant accomplishment, but I think it's probably a great likelihood that we find out, if they make the playoffs, that we find out within a week. They got some road ahead of them here. They got some climbing. Yeah.
Yep.
So.
All right. Special Saturday show wrapping up, Mace. How can folks help us out on YouTube?
Like.
Comment.
Share.
Subscribe.
Hit that notification bell.
So, even on a Saturday, you
never miss vid.
That's right. He's Andrew Mason. You follow him on all the socials at Mace Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammey saying OBT's the BFD. Let's go Broncos. Stay tuned. Stay frosty.